If I'm not back in 5 minutes, just wait longer. Welcome into the Bro 4 Squad podcast. Thank you guys for joining us. This is episode 36. We're definitely going to get in a fight today, so that'll be worth watching. I would bite the person on the show with me today, but sadly we are through Skype. That brings me to our introduction of my partner on today's episode, a man who is no longer allowed at an LA Sparks WNBA game for the rest of his life, Matt Geiger. Matt, do you want to tell our fans listening at home what happened?
I'll just say that their season ticket numbers took quite a dip. It went from 2 to 1 since I've left. So good luck filling the seats, or the seat, I guess.
I've actually heard they've called you to try and come back, and at this point, negotiations are at a stalemate. Is that correct?
Nah, man, the links have been blowing up my phone and my Twitter, so I'm thinking about going over to them.
Wow. Judas! All right. The Minnesota Lynx are listening to this, like, get his number now.
Yeah, he said he's interested. Let's go.
That's a warm lead, folks. All right, guys, if you have not listened to the Bro 4 Squad podcast before, we don't talk just WNBA, although that's a huge part of it. We're a bunch of bros who talk superheroes, movies, and superhero movies. Typically, we break our show up into 3 segments. It's a little slow on news because we have some pretty big movies coming out soon. Maybe you fucking heard of them. So we're going to actually start off today's show going straight to our question and answer segment with some of the best questions we've dug up from around the internet. And a little segment we like to call, Do You Even Lift, Bruh? Bruh! And if Brian Banner's at home, he's screaming in his headphones, Bruh! But he's not lifting, that's for sure. Our first question on today's show comes to us from Ben Blaylock at Big Ben Blaylock, who wants to know, based solely on films you have seen to this point in the year, who you given the Oscar for Best Picture to? Geiger, you and I basically the past 2 years have given up on the Oscars because they're a fucking joke. The Harvey Weinstein news, I think everyone's like, yeah, fuck the Academy, basically. So we're going to do our own Oscars this year. That's not tonight's episode. Get ready. Stay tuned for that, though, when the time that Oscars come around. But we've seen a lot of movies this year. If you had to give Best Picture to one of the ones you've seen, what are you going with?
Well, I just got out of the shower and made my wife watch me, so I kind of know what the fuck I'm talking about this shit. Now, we never get these right, but I'm going to pick... I'll give you a dark horse, actually. I think Murder the Orient Express hasn't come out yet, but I think that could maybe eke into it.
Yeah.
But since it's movies that we've seen, I'm going to pick Logan. It's time. Fantastic directing. Great acting, a great story, and especially the Academy, come on, they haven't seen the other X-Men movies to know this is a jumbled up fucking mess and makes no sense, so let's not give them credit for that. If you just see this, it's a great story, great acting, a child actor, which is rarely gotten right. Stewart should be up for Best Supporting Actor. I think Jackman should be up for Best Actor in a film, and very well directed. Dark and ominous, which they fucking love at the Academy. Someone dies, which I cried in theaters. People love that at the Academy. It meant something. And I thought it was a perfect film. It had a tone that is, you can't really classify it as a superhero film, I don't think. It was definitely an old school Western. So if you give it to, The Revenant, I think 3:10 to Yuma got some nods, then you should give it to this film too. So I'm going to go with Logan.
To your point, Return of the King won Best Picture, Lord of the Rings Return of the King, in 2004. What's that movie got that Logan doesn't got? Riddle me that, Academy. What's that? Shut up. So yeah, that's a great one. I love your pick for Murder on the Orient Express. If you go listen to our beginning of the year pod, that was my sleeper movie of the year. I still feel like I'm going to be right about that. At least a lot more right than Banner was about his sleeper movie of the year, The Space Between Us, which he didn't even see. So, good sleeper movie there. This is not the show to shit on Banner, even though he's not here. We love him. That was just an awful pick. For me, I'm going to go Get Out, the Jordan Peele-directed movie. I'm sure most people saw it. I think this walks that nice balance between it was creative, it was an original screenplay, an original concept, which was really cool, but also it was mainstream enough to where enough people saw it to where you can say, oh yeah, like people won't freak out if it wins. I think it legitimately might get a nom. I don't know if it'll win because
there's a movie that screams 2017 is that film.
Yeah.
And I know we don't get political at all because we don't want to, but with everything going on in the world right now, that is a movie that just says 2017, this is kind of where we're at in the society, and that's an awesome pick. And I wouldn't mind if that got it because You guys had to make me go to that film. I just thought it was some horror film that is going to be stupid at premise. Insane movie. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It has an awesome message. Very well done in all aspects. A great film.
Yeah, 100%. Great question, Ben. On to our next question from Kevin Hal Levine at Kev Watched a Film. Awesome Twitter handle. He wants to know, what 2017 movie best represents you as a person? I mean, this one's easy for me. It's either Wonder Woman or Girls' Night Out.
Wow.
No, in all honesty...
Is Girls' Night Out the one with all the... Which one's Girls' Night Out?
I don't know. So there's one with Jada Pinkett Smith.
I was about to say, is that the Tyler Perry but for women movie? That's the nicest way I could put it without saying something else.
But then there's one called Rough Night, which I think is just describing the people that had to go watch it that night, the movie.
Can we just admit that Bridesmaids is over and we just shouldn't do movies like that anymore?
Yeah. But in all honesty, I wish my life was like Baby Driver, because that was just a cool premise. I drive about 40 miles an hour on the highway, so you guys have probably honked at me and said, go kill yourself when you're in the lane with me. But actually, I think the movie that best represents me this year is Lego Batman, because I loved Legos as a kid. I really loved Batman, and if you listen to how the villains are portrayed in that movie, that's pretty much how I played with all my toys as a kid. Geiger, how about you?
Well, Jeff, you know that when you, I, and Banner started this podcast, that we all had a lot of things in common. Beer, cussing, laughing at funny, stupid jokes. We dig chicks that their boobs are all smashed together. So I'm going to pick Pirates of the Caribbean 5, Dead Men Tell No Tales, because it has rum, it has the ocean, it has pirates, and it has that one actress that in every scene has her boobs pushed clear to her chin. Go see our movie commentary on it. So I'm going to pick that movie. It was fun. It's, sometimes serious, and sometimes it got really cool fight scenes. But it's just a cool summer movie, and it's by an ocean, and we get to get drunk. I mean, who doesn't dig that?
I love when you quote scripture. That was beautiful. Our third question comes to us from Heston Roberts at Heston Roberts, who asks, what do you think weekend box office will be for Thor, Justice League, and Star Wars? Now, Geiger, you and I hate the predicting the numbers because we're just not smart enough to, and I don't think anyone at home cares. So let's rank them, how we think they'll do with box office, and then how you think they'll be in terms of actual movies, because we both know, case in point, the fucking Transformers movies, that the amount of money you make does not necessarily mean you are a good film. So I'll let you go first here. Rank your box office first.
Obviously, Star Wars first. I mean, come on. It's got to be. It's not just a dumbass one-off film that they're going to do in a couple of years. This actually adds on to the story of every single Star Wars movie ever created to this point. Then I'm going to go Justice League. Then I'm going to go Thor. I think Thor is going to be a better movie. Coming from a DC guy, I just do. I think they got a lot of things going with Thor. It's time to hit on Thor. They haven't hit on Thor yet, in my opinion. The first one was okay. The second one was dog shit. And it's just going to lead into Infinity War, which is probably the greatest culmination of any movie ever, even Star Wars, because it's more movies and everything comes together with Infinity War. I just think Justice League has a lot of questions around it, and people like me, that's DC fan, just want to go because we finally get to see Justice League, but Marvel fans want to go just to kind of see the car wreck, I think. So they're still going to go. So that's mine. Star Wars, Justice League, Thor.
Yeah, people do want to see a train wreck. That's why
they do.
That's why we go out for chicks' 21st birthdays. I think I'm going to predict my box office first. Star Wars, Justice League, and Thor in that order. And I actually think that that's how good of movies they'll each be. I think Justice League is going to be a huge surprise. Everyone is shitting on this film. I think we're going to be... A lot of people that have said bad things about it are going to be wrong. And I think its box office is going to do better than Thor for a couple of reasons. Number one, the marketing has been awesome. They spent a lot more on it. We're not even just talking trailers and TV spots, but like everywhere I go, I see a banner ad for Justice League. People know about this movie. Also, the runtime was just revealed. It's the shortest DCEU film yet, so they'll be able to cram more of them into theaters. So a lot more people will go see that than BVS, which had kind of the bloated 2-hour, 20-minute runtime. And the third thing, like you said, people will go see it hoping it fails, but I think once word of mouth gets out, people are going to go out to see it. I think Thor will be a very good movie. I'm not concerned about Thor, but to me, Justice League has the highest ceiling and the lowest floor, and I think it'll hit its ceiling here.
Couple things about Justice League. It has all the ingredients to be a total train wreck. See, if you're an NFL fan, we got your star player with rape allegations, Ben Affleck, because of Rose McGowan, And you have your offensive coordinator not getting fired but leaving the team, C. Snyder, and then having a new one mid-movie. And the other thing is, the runtime, to me, I want it to be long because we have like 4 fucking characters we've never met before. Commissioner Gordon, Aquaman, Mira's in this thing. I mean, see our squad blog about it on Bro4Squad.com. Flash, Cyborg, they have so many
Steppenwolf.
I just want to say I got to shit on it so I can be pleasantly surprised, because if I go in there to see a Justice League that I think should be a perfect movie, I'm going to be disappointed like I went out of Suicide Squad. And it took me probably about a good year to get over it.
We're still not over it. Who are you kidding?
No. That's why we do this.
It's therapeutic for us. We need it. Great question, Heston. And I think it just goes to show you, man, we're so lucky now that the calendar year ends with movies like this. I remember as a kid, once summer was over and school started up, that was it. There was really no reason to live anymore.
You might have got a surprise comedy like in August or September, but that was basically it.
Yeah, all you had to do was watch Home Alone on VHS, which is not a bad life still. Our next question comes to us from Violent Delight at Lateral UCN, who wants to know, what is the not-so-known movie that you push for your friends like crazy because you love it so much? I'll go first here. I've said this before on the pod, but it needs to be said again because I don't think people are listening at home, okay? So here it is again. The movie 10 Years. It's about 5 or 6 years old. It's about a 10-year high school reunion. It's a dramedy. Let me read you this cast and then shut up and go. Steal it online. I don't care. Just give it a chance. Channing Tatum. Heard of him? Anthony Mackie. Chris Pratt. A banner. Anthony Mackie's in it, all right? Chris Pratt, Oscar Isaac, Kate Mara, Justin Long, Rosario Dawson. I rest my case. 10 years. Check it out. Geiger, what do you got?
So it's almost the holiday season, not Halloween. That's the closest one, but Christmas, the main one, where we get presents and shit and worship Santa Claus. So I'm going to go with a Christmas movie that we're going to do a Bro4 Squad 12 Days of Christmas. I don't know if this is going to make it because there's so many great Christmas movies. And I shit on this guy a lot for great reason because he sucks now. But 8 Crazy Nights, Adam Sandler animated movie, is actually a really fucking good
It's
Christmas
good, dude.
movie. It's
good.
Hey, what bro doesn't like to drink and watch animation where they cuss and be vulgar? I mean, Family Guy, King of the Hill, South Park, you can go on and on. I love every one of those shows. If you haven't seen that, and I feel like a lot of our generation hasn't, because I always watched it during Christmas, and I'd have some of my friends over. They're like, oh yeah, I've heard of this movie. I've never seen it. You know, Adam Sandler is kind of sucking now. I'm like, dude, give it a chance. It's really funny. It's basically, he's like the town drunk, and
it's Hanukkah, right?
Yeah, and it's Hanukkah, Christmas, whatever religion you are, and he's trying to like kind of find himself, and I don't want to give too much away because it actually kind of has a hidden meaning, but it's a really fucking fun movie. Watch it every Christmas. Check it out.
The old guy character in that movie is hilarious.
All the animation in this really holds up even today. It's really good,
Yeah.
And it kind of ties in, like, you know, hometown, going back to your hometown. You know, he bangs a chick he used to in high school. It's awesome.
So that's you guys' double feature, 10 Years and 8 Crazy Nights, 2 numerical base titles.
Yeah.
Our next question comes to us from David Bennett at David Gator for Life, who asks, the Star Wars stories discussion, how about a Darth Bane trilogy, a Revan standalone or trilogy, Yoda or Malgus? First off, David, great suggestions and would have loved to see any of those over a Han Solo movie. Let me just start with that. Geiger, I'll let you go first. You read the books. You know a lot more Star Wars canon, and now I think they're calling them Star Wars Legends, some of the books that they wrote out.
Yeah.
So I'll let you answer this one, and then I'll just chime in real quick at the end.
Or even kind of a Obi-Wan movie. I'm not really interested in that either, unless they kind of tie it in and make Rey his father, I guess. I'm interested in it. But I'm going to pick one here. I know about pretty much all these. This is the one I know about the most. I'm just going to say this. Whenever they started doing The Force Awakens, you know, Last Jedi and everything, that's cool to me. That's awesome to add on the story. But these are comic books. I mean, there's a lot of stories here that are yet to be told, like, you know, a Black Panther or Shazam that people want to see hit the screen and actually have origin stories. So Darth Bane, I don't know if it could be a trilogy, but it'd be really interesting if it was like a one-time spinoff. So his mother dies during childbirth. Father hated him for it, beats him. Bane actually kills his father in a dream using the dark side without him knowing. He's a gambler, which is a fucking awesome little trait. trained by the Sith, then kicked out because he lost a battle. So he studies the Sith on his own and trains himself, and also a young Jedi woman. And then he goes to a big Jedi-Sith battle, kills all the Sith, and he's the lone survivor. And he basically rewrites the whole Sith, where he says that there should only be two Sith Lords, basically a Sith Lord and an apprentice, which is seen throughout every single Star Wars film, with the Emperor and Darth Vader throughout every single one. Darth Revan is also an interesting one because he kind of comes before Bane, and Bane reads a lot of his stuff and comes up with a lot of ideas. So I think that movie could become first. But it's a very interesting, I guess, a prequel, but it's not really a prequel because it wouldn't really tie into anything except for that two Sith Lord type deal. But I love where you're going here, man. Reading the books, I'm like, just do this, Disney. Don't, I know you want to do your own little special spin on stuff, but just do this, and I would go see it because a lot of people don't even know about these stories at all.
Yeah, and they could slap Star Wars on whatever they wanted. People would go see it. Just real quick on that, because those are all great stories that we haven't seen, and I want them to expand the universe. Anything Old Republic, I would be so in for. Yeah. If you're not familiar with the Old Republic, it's basically the Star Wars universe 1,000 years before what we've seen on film. So it wouldn't be anyone we know, but like you said, it would be, I mean, maybe Yoda or someone's alive. Or like, Hugh Hefner, because since he just passed away, maybe he's in it.
The Sith used to be like the Jedi. They used to train like 80 kids to become Sith, but Bane basically changed all of that stuff. So a lot of old stories were like a battle between Jedi and Sith, which would be fucking awesome to see on a 3D screen or like in an IMAX theater or something. It'd be insane.
The main thing I don't want to see is a Yoda movie because we've gotten so much Yoda in the Star Wars universe. Like, there's nothing that would be new in that for me. Like, I just don't think I would enjoy that. And after we saw him flip around in CGI, I don't think I trust anyone to make a Yoda movie and not just completely bastardize him now that they have the technology to do that to him. Another good question, and I wouldn't be surprised if one of those actually was. I mean, now Disney's planning everything out way in advance, but hopefully we get some fresh blood in terms of the next Star Wars anthology movie that they announce. All right, our second to last question comes to us from Drew Landiza at Filipino Jedi, another awesome Twitter handle, who says, who would you want to direct any movie of your choosing, Denis Villenueve or Christopher Nolan? This is a question that I basically just would have said, kill me. I won't choose between the two of them because they're both gods, essentially, in the directing world. I'm going to go Chris Nolan only because I think his filmography is a little bit deeper at this point that we're recording this podcast. So if you're listening to this, if you've dug it up in a time capsule and that's changed, don't attack me for it. Or do, because that's just weird. But the other thing is, Villeneuve and Nolan, you and I did not like Dunkirk or Blade Runner 2049. No, we're not snobby, pretentious pricks. They just weren't entertaining movies to us.
They're fun to see. They just weren't fun.
We like almost every movie.
I can watch a movie that's not fun, but that sucked too. Yeah, it didn't even make me want to kill myself or anything. I felt nothing.
Yeah, do one of the two. We like almost every movie we see on this podcast, guys. We're not some guys who bitch and complain. Just not like those two, and I think weird enough, their last two movies, for me, are the weakest they've each produced. Geiger, what do you think?
Villeneuve, for me, hasn't done a movie. He's a fantastic director. Probably the hottest director. He is the hottest director in Hollywood right now. But the movies he's done hasn't slipped in my top 10. Nolan's have. So I'm going to pick Nolan, and I'm going to do you one better. Someone needs to do a Julius Caesar movie. Someone needs to. I mean, I know the wells kind of run dry. I mean, they did Troy, and that was red hot. 300 was red hot. Alexander fell flat. But I would love to see more of not medieval times, more of a Spartan-type movie. Julius Caesar would be perfect. Or do a Cortez versus the Aztec movie.
Oh,
and just kind of show we don't get being partial Native American. We don't get enough Native Americans in movies. They did it pretty well with The Revenant, but the Aztecs are the most brutal of the fucking Native Americans, and Cortez went in there and slaughtered them, and that would be a fucking. I wouldn't even. Saving Private Ryan couldn't even touch that movie if they do it right. It'd be insane.
Take the kids to that one.
Yeah, take the kids. It'll be fun. Get them some popcorn.
Get them a juice bucket or whatever. No soda because you don't want to raise them wrong.
It's Tuesday, so the Aztecs have to sacrifice 8 people today. So,
oh, sorry. Our last question comes to us from Anthony Shannon at Anthony Shannon 2, who asks, How can Marvel make lesser names like Black Panther look awesome, but DC can't do marquee names like Batman and Superman well? First off, on this show, we take a very down the middle approach. I'm the Marvel guy, Geiger's the DC guy. Geiger, we'll let you weigh in first. What do you think about Anthony's question?
I understand kind of where he's going at, but his question to me doesn't make sense. Is to me. Maybe he feels this way. I think they've done Batman and Superman very well in the DCU. I think besides Wonder Woman, who they've done perfect, I like the stance they've taken with Ben Affleck and Batman, making him more the Dark Knight Returns Batman. I like the stance they've taken on Superman, since he's the only fucking guy they've really character developed, because he's been in more movies than anyone else. I think what he more means is that, Marvel had, Iron Man and Cap and made them popular, and Iron Man was more kind of a B-plus player than Spider-Man, but each of them had about 2 or 3 movies to character develop. Superman and Batman didn't have that. Superman had one, Batman was just thrown into BVS. I think the better question would be like more second-tier heroes with the DCU were Flash, Cyborg, who we haven't really seen yet. Well, I'll comment on that after Justice League, I guess, or Suicide Squad. And I understand where he's coming from. DC doesn't do a good job developing characters simply because they're trying to chase Marvel. They're trying to do Infinity War next year. They're trying to do a Justice League movie. They're trying to catch Marvel, where Marvel's had a fucking 10, 12-year head start from the first Iron Man. So whenever you have a movie a la Civil War where we know 80% of the characters, you can throw in a Black Panther who most just normal people don't know who he is. And you can throw in a Spider-Man that everyone knows who he is, but who is Tom Holland trying to play him as? So I understand where he's coming from, and I agree with him a lot, because after they messed up Lex Luthor, in my opinion, on BVS, yeah, man, it sucks. It really does. How Black Panther movie is going to be better than a movie with Lex Luthor and Superman because they did Lex Luthor wrong. It's acting, a lot of it. It's definitely casting was probably the number one thing in a lot of these roles, and it's character development. You need somebody to have their own movie, so we know who are they playing.
I'll just say this. I think it's easier to do a lesser-known character for a couple reasons than like a well-known one. Number one, no expectation. People go into the theater and they don't even know what they're about to see, so you can frame everything new. Number two, kind of piggybacking on that, no preconceived notion on pretty much what the character should be. People who haven't read the comics don't come in and say, I want to see this Batman, or I want to see this incarnation of Superman, because they just don't know. Case in point, Guardians of the Galaxy, who've been around for almost 20 years, no one fucking ever read the comics. So you can do whatever you want on screen, and they don't know. And sort of piggybacking on that, my third point, if you're doing a character like a Black Panther, like a Doctor Strange, and I'm choosing his Marvel example that Anthony used, as opposed to Batman or Superman, who have had on-screen incarnations, you could come in and be like, well, I'm not going to like the Affleck Batman because Burton's is my favorite, or Nolan's Batman was my favorite, or Bruce Timm's in the animated show was my favorite. If it's already been done before, then people are always going to benchmark what they're seeing against that. So I think when you do a property that people don't know, or that's relatively more obscure, it's the same reason, like, if you're a new kid moving into a school, you can become popular in like a week. But the kid who's been there for 6 years that's been in band the whole time, he can't just go play football and start banging the cheerleaders because people know who he is. They've seen him all the time. That was a great analogy. I just pulled that out of my ass.
That is fucking really good. I'll disagree on 2 things. One, Lex Luthor has been on 2 screen adaptations before Eisenberg, and as Gene Hackman, and even Kevin Spacey played him fantastic, even though Superman Returns sucked. Those are both 2 It's hard to fuck up Lex Luthor. Just give me a 50-year-old man, shave him bald, and just have him be conniving, and they fuck that up.
Yeah, but,
and Flash has never had a movie, but everyone knows, basically who he is, I would feel, and I haven't even seen Justice League, but I've seen enough to think they fucked that up too.
But see, you're already making my point for me. Jesse Eisenberg, we already had 2 Lex Luthors that we liked, so it's harder to get him right. The Flash, you have already said from the trailer, that's not the Barry Allen I know in the comics. Do you think anybody walked into Guardians of the Galaxy and said, well, that's not how Drax is in the comics?
But the thing is, Lex Luthor's not that hard to fuck up. You telling me if we wouldn't have Cranston in there, he wouldn't have been the best? Like, it's pretty easy to cast him, I would think.
I don't know, but they did fuck him up. So
they did. I understand, but it's. And I know it's Alexander Luthor Jr. We've been fucking talking about this, but fuck that. No one knows who that is. I've read those comics. No one knows who that is.
Well,
so we should have done a regular Lex Luthor. I understand where you're coming from, and I'm with you, man. With Warner Brothers, they're basically like, where's Marvel at? Let's get there in 2 months. Who cares about the characters? Just everyone knows who Flash is. No, we don't, because there's so many adaptations of these comics. But still, even Cyborg, I feel that I'm not really buying into him too much, and I don't know anything about him. But it's because he's thrown in with, honestly, I'll tell you, I don't give a fuck to see Ray Fisher. I just want to see Momoa the whole time because I'm buying stock in him. Now, if it was a Cyborg movie, I'd be invested, and that's where DC goes wrong, is they introduce these people. Marvel's done it once, I believe, in Civil War. Well, they kind of introduced ScarJo and Iron Man 2, but they subtly introduce them in. They don't introduce them with 8 other fucking people we've never seen before. I think that's where the problem lies. That's a great question, though.
Anthony, you made our show awesome today, so thank you for that. That will do it for episode 36 of the Broforce Squad, guys. For our enforcer in the paint, Matt Geiger, I'm the playmaker, self-dubbed, Jeff Hornacek. Be sure to follow us on Twitter, at Broforce Squad.
No one calls you that.
Everyone calls me that. Give us a like on Facebook, Broforce Squad Podcast. Subscribe to us on iTunes or YouTube, Broforce Squad, that's 3 words. If you leave us an iTunes review, we will read it on the show because you're awesome. And as always, check us out on our website, broforcesquad.com. Check out our squad blog. And why don't you strive to make our Broforce Squad Hall of Fame there? Alrighty, thank you. We'll catch you next time if we don't choke each other out of this.